Good morning. We're at the Public Works Building. It's December the 10th, 9 o'clock, and we're going to have our regular council meeting. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We're going to have invocations followed by the pledge of allegiance. Everybody stand, please. Mark Bates, make it up here.
Keep coming.
Thank you, sir.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, you sent your Son among us to proclaim the kingdom of God in all cities, towns, villages, and in the lonely places. Behold and visit, we pray, Mexico Beach, and renew the bonds of charity that uphold our civic life. You have blessed us, Almighty God, with this good land for our heritage. Bless our town with honorable industry, sound learning, and pure conduct. Save us from violence, discord, confusion, from pride and arrogance. Endue with the spirit of wisdom on those to whom in your name we have entrusted the authority of our government, that they may do your will. And we pray that you bless our city council, all employees of Mexico Beach, and the residents of our city this holiday season, and keep them safe. And I pray this in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to Father Bates. We never asked him to come in and do the invocation for us, but he's taken that upon himself, and he's here every meeting, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure the city does also. Thank you. Well, we get lucky enough to have special appearances this morning, so it starts with this. There's Kimberly.
Good morning, Council,
morning.
Jerry. My name is Kimberly Schiff. I'm the Tourism Director for Mexico Beach. Just wanted to come in and update the city regarding the beach restoration project. We're really excited about this project. It's the first full-scale beach restoration project that Mexico Beach has ever had. It's desperately needed. Especially around the curvature area of the critically eroded section, which is essentially 37th Street to around 15th Street. So this is a big, huge, exciting deal for Mexico Beach. The pipeline and heavy equipment will be delivered around the week of January 6th, and that's going to be on the 37th Street parking lot. And that area, as well as the beach access area, will serve as the major staging area for the construction of the project. The dredging equipment will be on site at the end of January, with pumping to commence around the 1st of February. The dune and beach berm will approximately take around 45 days, or towards the end of March. Of course, this is all weather dependent and can be fluctuated. And then after the end of March, planting of vegetation will take place, and the project will wrap on April 15th, if not before.
A possibility you could share that schedule that you have just right off of?
I can. You actually received it, I believe, from Michael Dabrowski on December 2nd, but I will definitely send it to all of you as well if you didn't receive it.
So no changes from this?
No changes from that. No, sir.
So if we've already received, we can post that?
You can. Yes, it's all of this that I just read off, as well as the project, the plans, everything is on our website, mexicobeach.com. There's a special tab right at the top. It says Beach Restoration Project, and the weekly schedule. So we'll be getting a weekly schedule from the Weeks Marine is the project company, that construction company that we're doing this. So they'll give weekly updates, and those will be posted online as well to let residents and visitors know what sections they're working on and how they're working.
Okay. Is that it?
That's all I have.
Well, we're going to ask FWC to come on up, and he has some comments, and if you just wait, Kimberly, we could get some answers.
Morning.
I'm Lieutenant Mike Guy. I'm actually, as a disclosure, a resident of Mexico Beach, but this is not citizen comment, it's official business. Normally I'm up here talking about bears when I'm here, but so it's kind of a welcome change. But this was not on my agenda, but when I heard, that y'all were doing the restoration project and she was kind of updating on it, I thought it would be a good moment to, and I'll compress this into a Reader's Digest version because you can really get into the weeds with some of this. The beach restoration projects go on all over the state, and Mexico Beach is very unique because there are a few counties that are similar to Mexico Beach, where you have very rural parts of the beach and you have very metro parts of the beach. And the protection of the dunes, I guess, is the goal, because the dunes are protecting people, wildlife, and property. The dunes are there solely to protect property. And the vegetation on the dunes becomes a very hot topic, and probably unbeknownst to most people in this room, the law enforcement community gets a lot of questions. We have trouble pumping gas or eating lunch without getting beat up with questions on dunes and preservation of dunes and preservation of wildlife, that's where your sea turtle nesting goes on. That's where your critical shore nesting birds happen, and Tyndall is a good example. Tyndall Air Force Base is one of the top 5 places in the state of Florida to catch sandblast for critical wildlife. You'll see, if you ever recreate there, you'll see it roped off with signage, and there's pretty much nowhere you can walk through the dunes without using public access, and you can kind of see where this is going. Flagler County is a good example of somewhere that's similar to Mexico Beach. They did a restoration project that was multi-million dollars, which is it was spearheaded by Tourist Development Council. And they did a big public awareness, I believe it was called Avoid the Dunes or something to that effect, where they put out a lot of media information and signage. And signage is very good, but signs, we kind of all know signs are good for walking into while you're staring at your phone with this generation. But they did a very phenomenal job, and they had to come in and preemptively do some emergency orders at the end, and this is simply to kind of make you aware of some of the issues that other municipalities have faced with projects that are not that inexpensive. And I'm not here suggesting that you do any of them. I'm suggesting that just be aware of them, and you can probably do some research on them, reach out to their TDC and possibly get some of that. But the wildlife and the critical wildlife is the reason that I'm here, because those dunes are paramount for nesting and turtle nesting, bird nesting, and those wildlife areas. They create walkovers, for public access to go on. But a lot of these metro areas will have condos that you cannot typically walk through dunes. You get private access or public access between them. So, that protection of the dune system is not really required in those areas where you have rural areas where your beachgoers and your tourists and your visitors would typically migrate to, so they don't have to weave through the congestion of those metro areas. That's where they're going to be accessing the beach. And those public accesses are very paramount for them to be able to access the beach, enjoy the beaches without trampling or destroying, critical wildlife zones. That beach grass, most people do not know, but sea oats are the only protected vegetation on a beach. And there's, it's common knowledge growing up that you don't walk through dunes. That's not the law. There's a lot of times during the season that we wield questions, hunting related, that are just passed on from generation to generation that are not true. And you've got, I don't know where Lieutenant Williams, if I walk through the dunes down here at the beach, what enforcement action would you have?
None.
Yeah, most people don't know that. Most people are not aware of that. But we get citizens that are very passionate about seeing visitors and family members and next door neighbors walking through dunes, and everyone assumes that it is illegal to do so. But the goal is education and awareness. The legal side of it in place allows you to get compliance without enforcement. Flagler County that I mentioned is a very good example. They have not written a single ticket with an emergency ordinance they passed this May. They did that restoration project over a course of a few years, finished it, I think it started in 2016 if I remember right. They came back after that restoration project and passed an ordinance against walking on dunes, and have not written a single violation since then. The sheriff's office was instrumental in saying that since that ordinance was in place, it allows their deputies to educate them, make them aware of it, and they have not had any repeat offenses. And no violations with the educational approach they're putting.
What city was that, sorry?
This is Flagler County.
Flagler
This is the
County, okay.
entire county that they did this with. And I'll make another disclosure. I'm state police. We don't enforce city ordinances or county ordinances. The only ordinance that we enforce is wake zone violations. So I don't have a dog in the fight as far as enforcement goes. But I'm just giving you a few ideas to think of. I think it's something that if you're going to put a lot of money into restoration, which none of it is cheap, it's really good insurance to be thinking like that down the road. And I'm not saying that for an enforcement standpoint, I'm just saying that for, I don't think that this issue will be an issue that you will not have support from nearly all of the public. The locals that live here, they like to see the visitors, they enjoy seeing the visitors, but it is going to continue to get more populated. And you noticed in the past 2 or 3 years since we really started recovering from the hurricane in Mexico Beach, there's a lot more traffic here, there's a lot more traffic parking here. Some of it has to do with the rebuilding and the condos and everything getting back online. But I just wanted, because she's doing a phenomenal job, obviously, I just wanted to make sure that you guys were thinking of some insurances to protect what that investment is. And coming from the Fish and Wildlife side, anything you do that protects the dunes is going to be a win for the commission, because that is protection for your critical wildlife areas and all your wildlife that requires the beach. That's it.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank y'all so much. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. I think one of the things that you brought up is something that's happened recently, and I read a comment and got an email from, I think it was Rock Creek, had an incident where a guy was going over the dunes and he called them on it, and there was a little confrontation there. I think any ordinance you write has to have some meat on it, so it might be something we want to look at. It's a note we can talk about in the future.
Yeah, I have done some research. Nobody local has an ordinance. Miami Beach has an ordinance that I looked at. I just pulled up Flagler. Their teeth for this one is a $500 fine. So this is definitely something that I can put together some options with our attorney's help and present it to the council.
Right. Something I'll look into. Kimberly, thank you. Do you have any questions from the audience? Anybody? You guys done a great job at informing the city what's going on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And just to know that this project, it is not cheap by any means. It's $27 million, and we have fully funded this project with both state and federal dollars. So my organization, the county, city, is not having to come to the table with any funds to offset this project. So that's a really big accomplishment. Nobody else has actually, I think, been able to fully fund a full beach restoration project without having to come to the table for something. So very happy to have that. Just know that this project, with all of our permitting, does have U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Everybody has looked over their full restoration plans and the construction. So we have stamps of approval. And Weeks Marine is very understanding of the dune preservation, the sea life, the wildlife, everyone. And we are doing this outside of sea turtle nesting season as well as shorebirds. So we've made sure to try to do this around a time frame where it protects everyone. And there will be designated and clear paths while construction is going on to show people how they are to access the ramp or to access the beach, with ropes and signage as well. So that will be there. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She asked me, because she moved up to number 4, but she's over the charging station so you can leave.
Oh,
That's why she likes it.
that's what well, knowing that that's not going to take long, I really I'm not opposed to that if the council's okay. Kimberly, I'm okay with that. Come on up, or I'm sorry, we're getting started on our own. Let me see here.
Wait, yes, you had another special appearance. I don't want to skip that.
I don't see that special appearance here.
Oh, okay.
He's there.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're gonna go ahead and jump down to that and get that done. So we're gonna move to number 4 real quick. And that's the Duke Energy easement at CDC. That'd be Chris Truitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The CDC has been working with Duke Energy to provide a couple of chargers for electric vehicles. CDC, or Duke Energy rather, has asked for an easement to be able to install their equipment. This is being put in at no cost to the CDC or to Mexico Beach. It is creating a bit of a draw. Having chargers, I believe these are the only chargers that we have here in Mexico Beach, could be a tourism draw, which is why the CDC is involved in this. I don't know if Kimberly, you wanted to speak more to that?
So this program is through Duke Energy. It's all at their expense, and essentially what Duke Energy is doing is putting in these electric vehicle charging stations throughout the state, so it will link travelers from one corridor all the way down to another corridor. Currently, the closest charger station that's for public use is in Apalachicola. So there's none from Apalachicola all the way to Panama City. So this will not only help visitors, but it will also help residents or residents who have family coming into town. I mean, it's going to be a wonderful benefit. And yeah, that's it. I'm willing to give up 2 parking spaces at the parking in the Welcome Center for this. So yeah,
There you go.
yes, that's it.
Any questions from the audience on the easement? Any at the table?
Tim, was there something you wanted to tell us about?
Well, I went back and forth with Duke Energy on paragraph 8. The document I gave you is their last agreed version, which is in paragraph 8. I was hopeful that they would agree to my paragraph 8, and essentially they have agreed to it, but they don't want to put it in this document, and that is a termination of the easement, because as you remember, the agreement had a limited lifespan. And so what I was asking in paragraph 8 was to have them obligated to sign a termination so that we could terminate the easement at the end of the agreement. They agreed to do that, however, they did not want to put it into this document. So the language that they agreed to is what I had distributed to y'all, and that is paragraph 8 that is in that version. So,
Would you read that for us?
yes, sir. It says, if in the future grantee or grantor terminates DEC site host agreement or agreement expires and determines that the easement area or easement rights granted herein for the park and the plug project are no longer needed upon the removal of the facilities, then grantor shall, to the extent not needed, release the unneeded easement area or easement rights as a termination in recordable form as the case may be, following a written request from grantor. That's what they had agreed to. Yes, sir.
And you passed that on to the city administrator, and I viewed it also, and we pretty much said that's okay, go ahead and move forward with the changes.
Well, I would have preferred my language, but at this point, it needs to get on the road. So they've agreed to sign a termination, they just didn't want to put it in the language that I had, so.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to get move forward with it.
And I have a question. So, in layman's terms, what does this mean?
Well, they didn't want the automatic obligation to sign a termination. This language that they have is more of a, well, if the agreement expires and you all don't agree to extend it or do something to extend it, then if you ask us to sign a termination, we'll sign it. So it's just, it's a little different take on how we get to the end of this particular easement.
So, do you recommend this course of action?
Well, I think at the end, conditioned upon them doing what the gentleman from Duke Energy said, that they would sign it if we requested it, we'll get there with this language, yes, sir.
And that's what the way I understood it from you also.
Yes, sir.
And the city administrator. So, we're just looking for a motion to move forward.
I'll make a motion to allow Duke Energy to have an easement to install 2 electric vehicle chargers at the CDC.
Have a second?
No second.
Tammy, take the roll, please.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Wolf?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Special speaker, Mr. Richard, how are you?
Doing well, sir, doing well. Richard Bracken, Fort St. Joe, Florida 27 Recycling. First of all, thank you guys for last month's meeting. I guess with your help in publicizing our little issue challenges. I got home and I received a couple of phone calls from some of your residents, and they offered some of their commercial property. So I came out and Kristen and I toured the properties, and they weren't quite fitting what we would want. It's just it just wouldn't do well because of the tourism stuff. But I do appreciate the offer from your residents. We did secure some warehouse space in Franklin County. The Franklin County administrator and the landfill director helped locate some space and approved some space from Franklin County. So we did secure some space in Franklin County and went ahead and processed the business license applications for Mexico Beach, Apalachicola, Caramel, and City of Fort St. Joe. So followed with Mr. Truitt, and the business license has been processed, and I guess he's already asked the attorney to start drafting the franchise agreement, so that's in the process. So hopefully we'll have a conversation with that today. We started our recycling collection services in Franklin County last week, and a good first week with them, and today's week number 2. Fort St. Joe, their first week is this weekend. They're just hitting me every day, so they're really excited for us to get started, and I've got about a dozen residents in Port St. and Mexico Beach waiting for us to get started here too. So, any questions?
We asked that you look into maybe a pickup of one pickup at the city, if we would bring in
Yes, sir.
some you have drums or whatever you use.
I have a 200-gallon exterior deck box that we're going to use for that purpose for some of the larger communities that have dumpsters, so we can provide 1 or 2 of those and just kind of get started to see how that works out. So we can put that in a location wherever you feel fit, needed for. We'll have the recycling signs on it with the list of the recyclable items. And
How many would you recommend?
I'm assuming let's start maybe 2 to see, and then we
And
can,
what's the separation? You know, is there
it's single stream.
but would glass and plastic be in one bin, or would you have 2 bins?
Everything will go in one bin, so we can have, and it'll just be just a volume. Depends how many people starts delivering.
Cardboard, plastic, glass,
Yes, sir.
everything goes in one bin?
Yes, sir.
Any reason why you wouldn't want to have 2 bins and specify what goes in what?
Because people won't pay attention to it. We could try it, but I just
Oh,
talking to other.
we've done it, Mexico Beach has done it before. We had a glass and plastic, and then we had a paper, and then we had cardboard.
And I will bring in whatever you would want. We can go with it and try it. It's just, I'm happy to entertain that, and we'll go with it.
Could you get some costs to the city administrator, what that would look like?
Yes, sir.
As council, is that pretty much, would you like to look at that or not?
Yeah, we need to get them up and going in the city first, as far as this franchise agreement and everything, and get, kind of see what the citizens, the sign-up rate, and then kind of start moving forward, I think, too, with our own, kind of implement, but. Mayor, can I ask a couple of questions?
Yes, sir.
I spoke with the Port St. Joe attorney, and at that point in time, which was probably 2 weeks ago, they had not given you any kind of agreement to proceed. Do you have an agreement now with
Yes, sir.
Port St. Joe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what about Gulf County? I know there was some issue relative to their pickup company that
Yes, sir.
they were going to prohibit you from doing it throughout Gulf County. Is that
That's
Still the case?
That's still the case with the unincorporated Gulf County, yes, sir.
Okay, so you have an agreement, can you share that with the city administrator?
Yes, sir. The agreement with the city of Port St. Joe is really just the business license they issued us, and on the license on itself, it's two conditions. That the recyclable materials will be stored in East Point, and the collection service will only occur in the city limits of Port St. Joe.
All right, well, whatever you have from them,
Yes, sir, I'll
share
share
that with him.
Anybody have any questions from the audience? At the table, any questions?
So, when you provide your services to Mexico Beach, those 12 people that have signed up, will you have a container at their home that you'll be picking up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This is on a voluntary basis with the
Right.
residents and the businesses. We provide either a 48-gallon bin or 18-gallon tote. We can also provide barrel ice if they ask for it. We'll come by once a week, twice a week, and collect the recyclable materials, single stream, put it in a truck or trailer, and take it back to our tipping station, tip it, sort it out. And then what we're doing with the other municipals, once a month, I will report to the city manager, administrator, the amount of recycled materials that we collect, the amount of waste, cross-contaminated waste that's within it, and then we'll break it down by the type, and the amount of glass, the amount of different plastics, cardboard, paper. So, then all we'll try to do is with the others, it's just, as I'm reporting the amount of recyclable materials being collected, I want to share that with your landfill solid waste people to make sure that if I'm telling you it's 200-300 pounds, whatever, that they should see a similar reduction off the solid waste side. So there's a tipping fee should come down, but if I say there's a 1 number reduction, the solid waste side should see that same reduction.
And when do you anticipate that starting in Mexico Beach, the individual pickups?
Waiting on the
Is it on-
franchise agreement.
Okay, okay.
Okay, just to clarify, we're asking you for some information
Yes, sir.
about the 200-gallon tubs, pricing,
Yes, sir.
what it would look like, days picked up, the whole scenario. What does that project look like? Is it pick up once a month? Whatever it is.
It will be a weekly pickup, so
Okay.
I will get you a proposal later
Yeah.
today, tonight, about on the recycle bins, you have, 3 different sorts?
Yes, that's what they say. 3 or 4?
I think everybody was, Tom, how many you got, 3?
So
How many sorts do you have?
we're single stream. We put
When you get it and you start
Oh.
taking it apart, how many sorts do you have?
1, 2, 3, 6. Because I'm breaking plastics out all by each of the types, so I have to break out the plastics when I send it to Tallahassee. And I've got one station for glass.
All right, well, give us a quote for 3 and 4 then.
Okay.
But also, I want to try to understand, there's no license. We haven't approved anything yet for citizens pickup.
No, sir. No, I have a business license and I'm waiting on a franchise agreement before I can get the green light. Yes, sir.
Okay. And that'll come to us before we
Yes, sir.
look at that, right?
Well, it'll come to the city administrator.
And he'll bring it to the table before we okay the license. Any questions, anybody? Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
We're moving to the setback variance request for 111 38th Street. Ms. Laura?
Good morning.
Yeah, this is gonna be a non-judicial hearing, Mayor, so you'll need to, or quasi-judicial, I'm sorry.
Quasi-judicial.
Yeah. And
So
so
we have
therefore,
some-
first of all, before anybody gets sworn in, you all need to make a disclosure whether you have talked to the applicant, and if so, under what conditions and when. That would have to be on the record. So if any of you all have spoken with the applicant or a representative of the applicant, that would need to be disclosed. And then, after that, then you would need to swear in anyone who's going to speak on this issue for testimony in front of the council.
Okay, everybody heard that, so that's, I'll tell you that I've been to the property, have not talked to the owner. Everybody else?
I have driven by but not talked to anybody.
I haven't talked to them. I did say, just
I
rode by.
only looked at the property, have not talked to anybody.
But based on that,
So Tammy, if you would, anyone who is going to testify, Mayor, will need to be sworn in.
okay,
You will raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Good morning. This application is for a variance for a single-family structure located at 11138th Street on the south side of 98. This one has a little bit of a history since the property owner came to the council a few years ago to request the consolidation of a couple of lots into one parcel. That was requested, I believe, in a couple years ago. On October 7th, 2020. And the request was approved with a condition to have 7.5 feet setbacks on each side of the structure, and that was a city council decision. For whatever reason, the applicant did not go to the required agency at the county to have those lots combined, and so some amount of time lapsed, and at the time the issue came back up, Doug Baber was here, and he requested that to come back before city council just to make sure that it was fresh, and everyone understood that the conditions of the request was to combine the parcels. And again, the 7.5 foot setback came into play with the staff report and the application. So the requirement is based on a city council decision and not necessarily the land development code. The land development code does require 10 feet between structures as a setback. There aren't any structures currently on either parcel on either side, but the 7.5 feet setback request is based on a decision that the city council made that was part of the record in a hearing a few years ago. The other thing that's in play here is that the time that this was requested, the townhome district was just being adopted by the council, and so there was some discussion about the timing of all that. I was involved with the creation of the townhome district in 2020. Subsequently, about 6 months later, the code was amended at the staff level to allow single-family homes, because the original language did not have the inclusion of single-family homes. It was still required to only allow attached dwellings with a common wall. What was happening was, as you can imagine, as people were rebuilding, they weren't rebuilding together at the same time. So to allow the single-family home, there could be an unattached structure to something else, so that maybe in time, as the other attached structures came into play, they would have that common wall on a zero lot line. So that is why at the time it was written, the single-family structure had the ability to have a zero side setback, because the anticipation was that another townhome would come and another townhome would come, and they would eventually connect. However, the anticipation wasn't that single-family detached homes would be in this district, and accordingly, the city council at the time in 2020 decided to require that 7.5 foot setback for this structure, which had combined lots. So the planning board, the P&Z, heard this last week at their meeting and reviewed the 7-point test, which is in the land development code for the variance, the 6-point test. And based on the conditions of the 6 points, found that the request did not meet the requirements of the 6 points and recommended denial of the request to you. Do you have any questions of me?
any questions from the audience? Anything from the table for Laura?
So, Laura, on this piece of property, if it had the variance 7.5 on each side, it would make the property about 47 feet wide, which is comparable to most of the property on Highway 98 is 50 feet wide. And how deep is that lot?
It's 100 feet deep. It is 47 feet wide with the combination, and it's 100 feet, about 100 feet deep.
Okay.
There is an easement on the back that is 5 feet on their side and 5 feet on the adjacent property, so it's a 10-foot easement. But that really doesn't have a play into their side setback variance.
But there were originally 2 lots that we joined together,
Yeah,
city joined together.
I think actually 3.
Three.
Yes.
Laura, what are the 6 points does it not meet in the ODC?
So we can go through those. There have to be special conditions or physical circumstances that exist that are particular to this property that are not applicable to other land subject to the same regulations or other land in the same zoning district, which is the townhome district. So there isn't, I didn't find anything, and the applicant didn't produce any evidence or information that showed that this was different than any other condition in the same zoning district. The second is special conditions and circumstances exist that do not result from the actions of the property owner. So that's considered a self-imposed hardship when the property owner is trying to create a condition that doesn't play into the requirements of the land development code. And in this case, it's an opinion that they could build a house that's not quite so wide and meet the setbacks. So that would be considered a self-imposed hardship. It's the size of the house. The relief is granted that is the minimum degree of relief necessary. Again, they could potentially meet the setbacks if they just built a house that wasn't quite so wide. Literal interpretation of the provisions of this code would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties. I think their rights are commonly enjoyed by other properties within the same zoning district. Number 5, the grant of the relief will not be in degradation of the general intent and the purpose of the code, and the purpose of the code is to have, well, it was a council decision to have the 7.5-foot setbacks, but the purpose of the code is to adhere to the setbacks that are required in each zoning district. And then number 6, the issuance of the variance will not create an inconsistency from the existing character of the area. And it's hard this one might be a little trickier because it is a different, pre-storm they were all townhomes on this street. It was almost like 15-foot wide lots on this street, and so they've combined 3. So as we can see throughout Mexico Beach, on occasion people are requesting the combination of lots to build a bigger house rather than what was there pre-storm. So the character of the area is still a little hard to determine because it's not all rebuilt back, but the character of the area before the storm was a townhome district, and that's why they were included in the zoning category and on the map as townhome, because an analysis conducted pre-storm using aerial photography and lot sizes was that these were all townhomes.
So I guess this all gets back, in my view, is what was the intent of the district?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the intent for to allow people to build back. Mm-hmm. So I remember a few council meetings that I came and sat in. There was some periods that were talked about reducing density, allowing people to combine lots. Mm-hmm. I remember that. And then it was talked about, I mean, if you're gonna build single family, then you should abide by single family setbacks. And that's where the 7.5 came in. Mm-hmm. So the question, and I guess the representative for the client will come up, can they still, I mean, build one big townhouse, you know, with an attachment easement to the person next door? I mean, they're not really deprived of using the property.
Right. So we don't regulate the size of a townhouse. They could have a 3,000 square foot townhouse with a common wall attached to another structure. We don't regulate the size.
So another quick question, I don't want to take too much. On page 2 of your analysis, one thing that's catching me is this proposed 4x16 wood frame AC pool equipment platform. You're quoting that the setback should start from there. And I know the city has looked at AC platforms and structures like pool equipment and has allowed them to be built in the setback. And this, on page 205, in your analysis at the bottom here, under your chart, I just want to be sure, and that may come up in your next, when we're looking at this, the LDC changes, but I want to be sure we're not kind of reverting back to, we're going to start enforcing AC platforms not in the setbacks. See that?
Yes, but the section 2.02.07 setbacks of the Land Development Code tells us how we measure those setbacks. And that's, it's the narrow space between structures is the definition.
Okay,
Now, I think that we can talk about that when we come to the next item.
yes,
how we want
I
to
just
measure
wanted,
that.
it was in this
Yes.
piece, but it needs to be brought up too, and then people, they need to know, and other people.
Yes.
I mean, we need to.
Yeah.
Laura, are you saying, based on what Jason said there, are you saying that they could build at 0 if they wanted to?
They had a common wall agreement, and it was considered a townhouse, yes.
So they could build at 47 feet?
They could.
And that's the other, I do want to go back, and maybe in the next, the attachment easements are becoming more and more important to help with these situations. You know, we've kind of, I bring it up, you know, periodically, and we need to have these easements and have these people know that they need to draw up these easements. And that's where the district was, you know, the intent of the district. So, anyway, that's my comments.
Well, I'm interested in listening to the rest of the input.
Well, they get the right to cross-examine,
Who does?
the applicant, and cross-examine the lawyer if they want to.
Okay, yeah, if they have questions, come on up.
I'll be cross-examined.
That was a cross-examination.
I try to stay out of court.
Yeah.
We'll keep it simple.
Lance?
Lance Wilson, Southeastern Consulting Engineers, and I know Laura gave a lot of good history. I wanted to, can I pass one thing out to you guys?
Certainly.
And this is just a email. This is, and really the only intent to pass this out to you guys is just to kind of get an idea of how we got here, and well, I'll give you mine. I know what it says. But how we got here, and that you know, it was a at least an attempt of a good faith due diligence by the property owner. So when this was originally, I was not involved in the lot combination, so you know, I didn't see or know anything about the language in it. You know, when we did the site plan, which I've done recently, or my firm has done recently. And so when they got the lot combination with the stipulation of the 7.5 foot setbacks, I don't know, you know, I don't know how clear it was or what to the applicant at the time, which was the property owner. But he reached back out to the city, to Gina Johnson, which that's what that email is at that time, just to further, you know, further explore his due diligence, just to make sure he was doing the right thing before he called, you know, engineer, architect, anybody, and got verification that he could go to the 0 lot line, which is what you guys talked about. And so I feel like there was a little miscommunication, not miscommunication, but I never knew there was as a designer, I never knew that there was a 7.5 foot setback requirement in the approval of the lot combination. And every setback in the Land Development Code, when they have a setback requirement, is up to. You know, they have 7.5 foot setback requirement in the residential zone is up to. You can go 8 foot, 9 foot, and you know, it was interpreted, and it's actually worded that way in the Land Development Code. So that's the way we took it. when we did the design. So that's kind of how we got here, from that being a condition of the combination to now with here, and I've drawn a site plan, my firm has drawn a site plan that we felt meet the land development code, but it didn't meet the requirements of the lot combination. So the planning and zoning did deny the, or request, their advisory to you guys to deny based on what we had and what was presented. So what we have found since is, I think, and Greg had a good point last week. The reason that you have a party wall requirement, an attachment easement requirement, is because you need to either be connected or separated, and not separated by 6 inches or 2 feet or 1.5 feet, 3 feet, because emergency personnel can't get between the houses, and that's what's requested here. So I think it's 4.8 feet. So since then, since P&Z, Mr. Cowart, Randall Cowart, he's here, and he's sworn in. If you guys have any questions for him, has talked to his northern neighbor parcel owner, which is also a neighbor 3 doors down. That parcel that he owns is it's only 6 feet wide, and the entire parcel is an easement, utility easement, and it's on the north property line. So, you know, I know you guys talked about you could, or he could request, you know, to go to the property line with attachment easement, but he would just be against that 6 foot easement. So what may be,
But it's another 16 lot, right? 16 foot wide lot.
it's 6 foot.
6 foot
The
wide lot.
entire lot is the easement, and it's one parcel. It's a parcel on its own, and I've actually drawn this out for you guys to, if I can pass this out. I've got a couple of things to pass out. The first thing is the warranty deed, and then the property appraiser information on that 6 foot parcel, which is in its entirety utility easement. I'm gonna grab my pen. There it is. And then the second one.
Is this something new, or is this something you brought to P&Z?
This is not something that was brought to the P&Z.
So P&Z didn't look at this?
They did, because it was,
They did not?
they did not look at that. So, and this is, Mr. Cowart has been since in communication with that owner to try to figure out something, because at this point, you know, knowing how we got here, you know, where we're at, the idea, the intent is, you know, from Mr. Cowart's standpoint, to come to some sort of reasonable.
Do you have one for Laura? Give her this and I'll look at it.
Okay. Some sort of reasonable, compromise that works for the city, works for the client, and meets somewhat of the intent of his, what he thought was correct due diligence. And I'm gonna look on with Laura if that's all right, but, so that shows that 6 foot easement to the north, and if we were to meet the 7.5 foot easement on the south, or 7.5 foot setback on the south, and go 2.2 feet from our property line on the north, that would put us 8.2 feet from the northern property line of that easement, and the owner of that easement is a complete parcel. The owner of that parcel has expressed to Mr. Cowart that he will legally amend or create a, you know, document and it can't ever be built on anyways, but he's willing to provide a document that's recorded with the clerk of courts that lot can never be built on, that 6 foot wide lot, and it can never be added to another property to be built on. And then in essence, at that point, you would have a perpetual 8.2 foot setback off the northern property line of that easement, which is a parcel. So that's kind of what we're hoping to you know, to somehow meet in the middle and just see if we can make it happen somehow, and something that works for everybody. Meet the 7.5 on the south and effectively 8.2 on the north.
So you meet the 7.5 overall.
Yes, sir, on both north and south.
So, just for clarification, would this 6-foot easement, would this area be owned then by Mr. Keller?
Well, it wouldn't be if he just created something saying that could never be built on, would be the intent that, you know, the city and everybody knows nothing could ever be built here, so he'll be 8.2 feet from any future structure. Unless he purchased that, unless Mr. Keller purchased that strip of land, you know, and then it wouldn't, you know, then the variance wouldn't be
Sure.
required, but the cost of purchasing the land.
Typically, you're
Cost of
setback
it.
from land
But
use
the
only,
outcome would be the same.
not land that has an easement.
Yeah, but all this makes sense if he could basically own it. That makes sense, but for you to bring it to the council after you've already met with P and Z, I'm gonna tell you that personally, you need to go back to P and Z.
Right, and that's one thing I was gonna, and
But your odds are real good, I think.
my thought was, you know, rather than a new submittal, it obviously comes with new fees. I know this happens all the time. It's happened to me a bunch of times where the decision gets tabled to come back to the planning and zoning council. If that were the case, and I agree that should be the case, the planning and zoning needs to see, and I didn't have that information, you know, at that time. But if that is the recommendation of the council, and understandably so, it would be better to table it, to come back rather than, you know, resubmit, because that's a complete, you know, new process, unless you guys think different.
Let me
Any
ask,
input? Yeah.
So we're, you know, our next thing on the agenda is, we're trying to clean this district up a little bit here too. So you've proposed something that we're basically gonna be, you know, not following the direction I think we're gonna be implementing in this, some rules in this
Well,
district.
you
So
would
I'm
think-
sitting here going, we're gonna allow this, and I know there's some history with it, but there also is something from a previous council meeting saying the 7.5. So
So that gets
it's
you
like
8.
now, you have found a way to do it. It's the fire trucks or whatever could get in, you know, I understand that with the 6 foot, but I'm just gonna have a tough time voting on something.
So I think that would be.
I think we have all the information that P and Z should have had when to make the decision.
Yeah, I do believe
So-
P and Z needs to go back through it, but I just wanna bring up now before it's gonna come back to us again, just to get, you know, that.
Right, and I guess my thought on that would be, with this, with a perpetual unbuildable easement, you have an 8.2 foot setback, to where if you follow the land development code and went to, you had an attachment easement, then you only have that 6 feet, so I don't know where there's really, at that point, it's a peculiar lot that cannot, you can't even have a attachment easement on your property line of the town hall district, because you're only 6 foot from the next property line that can do the same.
There's a lot of questions I have, and I don't think we need to hash them out right here, but there's still, you know, what's left on the other side, is that going to make it a non-conforming lot? You know, we gotta hash all
Right.
that out too.
Yeah, and again, any P and Z members that are here, apologize we didn't have that then, but I didn't have the information at the time, so we do now, so I think we, you know, moving forward, you know, maybe me and Laura kind of go through some scenarios to come back to the planning and zoning and council with. The only thing I would request, if possible, is if there's a way to do it without the client having to come back the following month with a brand new variance fee and, you know, 600 letters.
Can we do that?
Yeah, I mean, this is all part of the process, so you can defer it back to the planning and zoning board for them to review it again, given the new information, without having to start all over again.
Okay. Well, that's your answer, because we're going to take a
Okay.
legal answer, but,
I got one clarification question, Laura. If they purchased that property to make this work, would they also then have to combine that strip to the other lot?
Yes, they'd have to have it recorded so that it's showing as the one piece. Because that's how we measure the setbacks, is from the property line, not from easements.
Okay.
But then we need to figure out what's left over, because we can't make it more, if it's already conforming, non-conforming, we can't
Well, this
make
already
it
is
more
separate parcel.
non-conforming.
This is its own parcel right now. That's a 6-foot parcel, separate from this.
Okay, we need to look a little deeper, but
Okay,
yeah.
thank
Any other questions? Any suggestions, or are we in agreement this is what we want to do?
I just want to ask Greg if he has any input.
Well, I do, it doesn't necessarily, it pertains to this project, but not in a, it's beyond this project. So what I would like to tell the council is what we are dealing with.
Wait, Greg, did you get sworn in?
Yes.
What I would really like to say is, regardless of what happens with this particular project, and it is a good example of how, when we look at different projects, they're never, and Mr. Laura will tell you, they're never apples to apples. There's always different circumstances and things that come into play. The townhome district is a bigger problem than this here, as far as what we deal with in your office here and the LDR. You've created a box, you've created several boxes, commercial, and I want to get away from the word single family, because a townhome is single family, it is attached, not detached, so that's separated on down. These definitions have been accepted by the state. I mean, these are coming from the building code, that is the state development body. So a townhome is an attached single family dwelling. The problems we have is these lots were platted originally specifically for attached single-family dwellings. So the good intention of allowing, and I agree with it, certainly we wanted people to rebuild, and obviously not everybody is prepared to rebuild at the exact same time, but there's ways around that. It's done every day. Attachment easement, party wall agreements with your plans, which allow me to set my pilings half on, half off, so when you get ready to build, your girders and beams attach right, and it just keeps going, right? When we get into these zero lot lines without an attachment easement, I'm taking away the rights. If it's my property, I'm in lot B, I'm taking away some of the rights of lot A owner and lot C owner if I build to a zero lot line without an attachment agreement. Now I'm dictating, can you have windows? How are you gonna paint your wall without being on my property because you were on the property line, right? So how am I gonna maintain my property? If you say I can't be on lot A and I need to paint that wall, how am I gonna do that? Rappel from the roof? I mean, I would be trespassing, right? So this particular problem, I'll go back to the boxes. You've created boxes, a commercial box, all these boxes. If the project does not meet the definition of that particular box, then, and so in this instance, in my mind, my opinion, and this is a good example, and it's happened before, this is not a townhome, it is a single-family dwelling, detached single-family dwelling, and it should meet the requirements of every other detached single-family dwelling. Now, if you want to build on 3 lots, 4 lots, and have a 5,000 square foot townhome, great. Build it with attachment easements, you got a big townhome, and everybody next to you can do whatever they need to do. So there are a lot of factors that come into play from a code and a design perspective that we all, even Lance, that we all wrestle with some of these ambiguities. And every time and I know you guys know this, but every time we make a concession, it's like Jason was saying, we're just kicking that can, we're not making it better. And so we have to define these things, irregardless of this project. We need, and I know we're fixing to go through the LDR, and that's a great thing, and hopefully we can clean some of this stuff up. But it does cause there's a lot of problems come from this. So that was all I had. Anybody, is there a question from the other one?
Laura, I want to ask you, well, I don't want to ask you, because we'll get into that on the next one. We have any more questions?
We need a motion to table.
Yeah, we got
Wait,
the owner of the cow.
Yes, sir, you wanna come up, come on up and,
Well, only if there's any questions for me.
come on up here.
Well, let me explain real quick. My wife and I bought down here in '04, '05. We went through the hurricane. We sold our property, so an agent put this deal together for us on 38th Street, and this is where we want to move to. This is going to become our home. So our intent, and you guys saw the Gina email, was to simply design the house the way we want it and slide it as far to the northern boundary as we could. And we're planning on doing some nice landscaping on the beach side. So that's how we got where we are. So then Mr. James Tyson is a friend of mine that I've met down here, and he owns, or has been deeded that easement. So I actually contemplated having him build the property because he's got a general contractor license out of Dothan, Alabama. So everything else I think has been explained, but if there's any questions, let me know. But that's been the intent from 2020 because that's what we were told we could do. And I think there's not going to be any issues front, back, or even on that southern boundary. We're just simply taking the house and shifting it over as far as we can along that northern boundary. And I've been in numerous conversations with Mr. Tyson. He's amenable to create whatever documents needed to satisfy, like we've been talking about previously here. So I'll answer any questions anybody may have.
No, we're good, sir.
You know, just,
No.
I'm sorry, but Lance is basically saying if that property owner lets you use that 6 feet, you'd have 8.2 on one side, 7.5 on the other side, so you would meet that variance that we're concerned with. But my concern is the fact that you wouldn't own that property, and I don't know where we stand legally with that, so that's my concern about it. It sounds like a great plan, but I'm just wondering about the give and take on that easement, since you don't own that property.
Maybe the legal language of the document that Mr. Tyson signs would be paramount to make this work. And I think he's amenable to do that. Otherwise, it would be purchasing your property and.
That's obviously a concern at all the table. I think all the council people have the same thing, probably do the citizens. So how that shakes out is what you deliver to the P and Z, I think would be real important. Him just saying, hey, yeah, you can build on it's not gonna work.
Has he given you any indication that he would sell you the easement?
Yes. The price I don't know. I suspect it's gonna be pretty high.
He might be watching.
Good deal. All right. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
All right, then we need a motion from the table to move this back to the P and Z.
Refer it back to the land and zoning for additional consideration.
I'll make a motion that we refer this back to P and Z for additional, so they can review the additional information that's been provided to us today.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Roll, please, Pam.
Okay, Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Wolf.
Yes. Okay, we're back to Ms. Laura and townhome district setbacks.
Thank you, yes, so this does make a request to amend the setback requirements within the townhome district, but also amend section 2.02.07, which is the setback section of the code, in addition to section 3.00.04, which talks about how we measure setbacks, and section 6.01.00, which also mentions how we mention setbacks. So essentially trying to help us be more clear and concise in how we, and understandable in how we measure setbacks in the townhome district, in addition to how we define, how we measure those setbacks and how they apply citywide. So as you can understand, based on the last item, we've had some trouble with the setback variance in the townhome district, specifically when people are combining lots from 2 or 3 or 4 into one, and how that reflects the neighbors when we do so. So, you know, as we discussed earlier, the townhome district was created a few years ago, and subsequently amended to allow single-family detached homes within the district, which at that time, whoever amended that didn't think about the setbacks. So they thought about the use and allowing the use of the single-family home, but not the setback to adjacent structures and adjacent types of housing. So the recommendation here in the table, in specifically Part D of the Townhome District of Section 2.02.02, is to amend the side setback language from 0 feet to state 7.5 feet. But if there's a common wall or attachment easement shared by the residential units, then the setback can be 0 feet. So basically saying that you are required to have 7.5 feet unless you have an attachment easement, then you can have 0 setback. So that clarifies how we measure that in the townhome district for detached single-family housing. And then we move down into section 2.02.07, which defines setbacks and how we measure those. Just kind of clarifying the language so that, you know, different zoning districts have different setbacks, and if we have a zoning district that allows structures to be built on the property line and it has a common wall, then the owner shall grant an attachment easement to the adjacent property owners to have that 0 setback. And then moving into Part C of that same section, just cleaning up the language, cleaning up how we measure it, and as we discussed a few minutes ago with Councilmember Adams, maybe talking about how we make that measurement on Part 2 of Item C of 2.2.07, whether or not we want that to be purely from the exterior wall or for any portion of the structure that is on the outside of the exterior wall, such as maybe an exterior stairwell or any other kind of equipment that's attached to the house. That would need to be discussed in Part 2 there. And then just really clarifying which zoning districts require which setbacks in each of the districts. And if we turn to the next page, which is page 3, there was some language in here that applied to various structures that had a sunset of 24 months post-storm. Since we're past 24 months post-storm, I'm recommending deletion of all this, just so we have clear language in the code and it's not confusing. And then if we turn to the next page, this is where there were other definitions throughout the code that referred to how we measure setbacks. And those have been amended to be consistent with each other and how we measure those setbacks.
Good job. And I would point out to the council that this needs to be, whatever you decide needs to be enacted by an ordinance.
Yes.
So you'd be conceptually agreeing with whatever language you want to agree to, but ultimately the change would occur by ordinance.
And this was recommended unanimously for approval by the P&Z board.
Okay, we're gonna then open to the public. Any input? Yes, sir. Come on up, Lance.
Lance Wilson, Southeastern Consulting Engineers. Like Jason said, the only thing I wanted to mention was full equipment, AC stands, things like that. Structures under 30 inches, I think was in there at some point. I don't have it in front of me, but AC stands is a big thing because especially we have a lot of skinny lots, Gulf front lots. You can't go seaward. You can only go so seaward with FWC and DEP. So I just wanted to make sure that if we could put some language, hopefully, in there to allow to keep having the AC stands in the setback, and not only for future projects, but also projects that have went through DEP permitting, months ago, 2 months ago, 1 month ago, that still got 5 months before DEP is going to issue anything that comes back to now we got to get a building permit for this. That's went through the letter of no objection process for the site plan. So that's really all I want to mention.
What wording would you change?
Well, I guess I should have brought it up here with me, but.
Yeah, go get it.
Okay.
Here, here's the. or any portion of the permanent structure.
What
So
number
if,
you- what number you want?
if,
Because it's up for discussion of where you're gonna measure from, that's why I wanted to mention that.
Right,
yeah.
I got that. What number you on?
So this is under, on page 2, part C, part 2, the distance shall be measured from the exterior wall of the permanent structure or any portion of the permanent structure.
Okay.
So I guess there would need to be maybe some sort of building code determination whether an AC stand is part of the permanent structure. And if it weren't, then the setback would not be measured from that AC platform.
Yeah, we've never allowed stairs either in, that was come up, but.
Right, and typically
Stairs are
and
not.
landings were attached and AC stands were not, unless sometimes you had a calendar AC stand.
So I can see how in an emergency situation, an AC stand could be physically removed, but a stairwell, maybe not so much. And so I think that's a big intent of setbacks is to allow emergency personnel to access to the side of the building.
Mayor, if I may. Lance is exactly correct. So historically, at least since I've been here and long before, we have allowed, and we do in other jurisdictions allow it as well, what we call building services to be in the setback. So that's your heat pump, pool equipment, something you can navigate around or easily remove. He's also correct, stair landings is a no. That's a structural component of the house, and that's how we consider it, and that cannot be in the setback, okay? And the building code, you're absolutely right, defines, it doesn't play with setbacks, but it certainly follows the same, it's intuitive to think it will be the same logic. Exterior wall to exterior wall, okay? That is the building distance, which is what we use currently. We measure from the exterior piling or the exterior wall to the property line. The contractor, either we get a survey telling us the as-built location of the structure, or the contractor has the option of pulling strings. We can see the pins. We do the measurement ourselves. Either way they want to go with that, the property owner can do that. But those things, that's correct. We do allow building services currently to be in the setback, as does basically everybody else. And what was the other? That was it. But stairs and structural components, no.
Okay, so we don't show that actual wording in here, should we do that?
It's come up before, we probably
I think
should.
you should, particularly because, let's assume for a minute that they decide to put the AC component 5 feet from the house. So now, the whole purpose of a setback, or one of the purposes, is for safety. While you may be able to remove it in an emergency, you don't want to have to spend 30 minutes removing it if you got to get somebody out of the backyard. So perhaps you need to add some language that would limit the distance of that equipment from the permanent structure so that it's not being run over by your fire department.
All right, so council, what do you want to do? Do you think this is something we should revisit, put the wording in?
I think the wording needs to go. I mean, this came up 3 or 4 years ago, and it was the building department expressed their views on it, and we allowed the AC, but it was never written in the document. So here it is again, so we should clarify it.
Laura, we can do that?
Now,
So my question, Mayor, is do you all want to do this by ordinance before you do the major rewrite? And if so, then I can work with Laura and we'll come up with the ordinance to present to you all.
It's up to the council. I personally would like to see the full document.
Okay, so this would just be a component of the overall
Again,
change.
it's up to the council. Where do you want to go, guys?
We have a lot of construction going on, a lot, and is this something that we need to, that we can wait maybe? Or you think we need to wait for the big
It's been
overhaul?
a recurring, and Julie can answer that maybe a little better because she answers those questions on a daily basis. But it's been a recurring, more prominent issue than some of the other things.
All right, I think it's important enough that we get all the information in. And I also had a question, Roland. Have you looked at this?
The original document?
Yes. What she's presented.
Yes, sir.
You've looked at it?
Yes, sir.
Have any input?
Sir, I agree with Laura's position. We were at P&Z together. while it's not specific to this particular project, I agree with all the principles. that
Okay, I
come
just
on.
wanna make sure you were-
Challenges are correct and real, and we do got to deal with them. So any language that we can clarify, like add this language, to support, that's perfect. It needs to be as absolutely clear as possible.
I think, I mean, I would like to personally see it move forward as soon as possible. I mean,
I
so
would
if we
agree.
send this back for another entire document, you know, we'll be at another meeting, you know, like you said, these things keep coming up, we need to. So
All right.
The mayor, can we, says we want the whole document in front of us, but we're agreeing on the rest of it, except for this AC platforms, you know.
And I have made a recommendation to planning and zoning, but I'm not sure that they incorporated that, but I'll work with them on
Okay,
that.
well, that's fine, then, if you got some other.
But if you all want to do it, then I can work with Laura and we can come up with an ordinance before you do the overall rewrite. And then when you do the rewrite, it'll just be a part of that also.
Okay. Then you'll rewrite it, you go with,
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Sure. Yes.
Did you say, quick question, I know the 7.5, did you say the residential family, when it was allowed into the district, of the townhome district, did you say that was a staff decision?
So at the time, Mario Gisbert was here, and he had someone here named Gina who was helping him with some various planning issues that I wasn't involved with, and that was one of the things that they did together after we wrote the town district.
So, are you recommending we approve it as written and then come back and address it in the OBC update?
No, I just wanted to know that question. I picked up on that before, that it was a staff decision to allow it.
Well,
I know we voted on the 7.5, the previous council, so it's been acknowledged at the table, but.
Let me read. It was a proposal by the staff to be adopted by the council. So it
Well, it
wasn't.
was.
It was a change by ordinance. Yes.
Okay.
Anytime you change the code.
The council ultimately.
Yeah, that's, I just wanted
Choose
to
the staff.
be
as
sure.
opposed to the planning.
Okay.
folks. And
Okay.
I got my answer.
Mr. Sloan and Laura are gonna rewrite for, and bring in the ordinance
Yes,
side of
sir.
it. Do we wanna wait till we get all of that at our next meeting to approve it? Or is there something you wanna approve right now at the council?
Well, Mayor, if I might suggest, you can do the ordinance, we can bring it back to you all for first reading, and if you don't like the language there, as long as you don't change the main substance of it, you could still make a change before the second reading and an adoption, so you don't have to delay it.
Yep.
I'm personally okay with that, the council's okay with that, we're ready to
Yep,
go forward.
we're good.
Do we need a motion to do that, or
Yeah.
just agreement? We don't need a motion, we just agree to that?
No, just, we'll move
Just
in that
correction,
direction.
right?
Yes,
Okay. All right, let's move on. Just want to get it right, right? Okay, we're moving on to Farmdale. Phase 2. Mr. Pruitt.
This is the actual annexation agreement. The city council has already agreed to the annexation. We already have the PUD for it. This is just approving the actual agreement as it stands for signature.
Any public comment? No public comment? Public comments closed. At the table.
So our attorney, Tim Sloan, has reviewed it and made some revisions on the original document.
I
correct?
actually wrote it.
Okay.
And the only thing I would say is just conceptually what you're agreeing to in this document is that they have until August 31st of next year to finish out the horizontal development in accordance with their PUD and the permits from the county to do the horizontal. And when they finish the horizontal, or August 31st, whichever comes first, then at that point in time, then the annexation process starts for the city, and the city then proceeds, they'll have to fill out some additional forms and stuff, but then at that point in time, from there on out, they're subject to the city's requirements for the vertical construction.
Layman's terms.
That's it. Horizontal is county,
Yeah,
vertical is Mexico.
Exactly, we're not moving, and they work off the pike going forward as of after after the annexation, they fall under our comprehensive plan, our LDC, and our ordinance and codes. Okay, do we have a motion to move forward on the agreement?
I'll make a motion that we move forward on the Farmdale annexation agreement.
And authorize the mayor to sign.
And authorize the mayor to sign.
Have a second?
Second.
Tammy, take the roll, please.
Okay. Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Wolf?
Yes. Thank you. We skipped we didn't skip it, we did the Duke Energy earlier, so we had to move on to number 5, which is the pier and police and fire department update. I'm gonna have Mr. Lindeman go over the pier update. Then after that, Mr. Truitt can go over the police fire department update.
So I asked Chris actually to do that. I do, when we get to the municipal building, I have some questions for Ryan to answer.
Sure.
Go ahead, Chris.
The pier update, FEMA has asked us to go ahead with the bid package, not for construction purposes, but because it would appear, correct me if I'm misstating, it would appear that they're not exactly sure how much this project would cost. So they don't have any similar projects recently to compare it to. So they've asked us to go get the bids, present them that information, and then from there they'll make the determination on how much they're willing to spend on our pier rebuild. We still don't have a timeline on this. We did send that request on to Dewberry, and he is currently working on the bid package. So as soon as we have that back, Donovan, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
So let me clarify one thing though. It was suggested by our party to FEMA to do both the bid process while they were still doing the environmental, so we weren't waiting for one to finish the environmental first. So they agreed to that, and that's what's being done. So that should help speed things up a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, you can finish the update. Poor Mr. Linderman's been sitting in on all of these weekly FEMA meetings.
So on the municipal building, fire and police department, FEMA denied our request, and we're in the process of appealing that. And Ryan is working that right now. And Ryan, I just wanted you to clarify the timing, because it's not like this is going to happen in 30 days, right? Because the timing.
Sure.
The good news is there are timing requirements.
Yeah, for sure. So, and just one quick clarification to Tim. So, you guys may remember, I mean, this has obviously been a long saga, so just a little summary reminder. Probably a year and a half ago, FEMA had issued us a determination memo, which is basically them saying, like, here's kind of like dollar figure, scope of work that we see. We started kind of trying to argue with them a little bit about it, and they ended up rescinding that memo because I think they kind of realized, oh, they're not, like, the city has some points here, and we maybe missed some what's the word for it, overlooked some things. So they pulled that back, and they've been now working back and forth with us and kind of getting us to explain. Basically, they weren't recognizing that the old site is 500-year floodplain, and that if you were going to try to build on that old site, you have to elevate the structure there. So, long story short, they've now just recently issued us a new determination memo, and they have increased the cost a bit. It was about $500,000, so we're in a better spot than we were a year and a half ago. But it's still kind of short of where we think it needs to be. And basically they're still saying, like, well, hey, we're costing it out at this old site. And we really, I think, want to make the argument that we should move it to the new site. So I've talked internally with Chris and staff just about some of the options that we have outside of going forward with appeal, which we have the option to do now. Once a determination memo is issued, basically it sets, as Tim was referring to, kind of a time frame for FEMA and us to get, basically, if we want to appeal formally, sort of like a legal measure, we can put together an appeal package. We have 60 days from when they issue the determination memo to submit that appeal package. Then the state has another 60 days to review it. And from our conversations with the state, so at that point, essentially the state could say, well, we're not passing this on, we think you guys are completely wrong. But we get the indication that the state's gonna say, yep, we're gonna pass this along to FEMA. They have 60 days to review it, and then they submit a package to FEMA, and then FEMA will have another 60 days to review it. They have to have a response to us within that time frame. So that was what Tim was saying. I mean, it's the one thing I feel glad about is that we're now working on like an actual schedule that's legally mandated essentially for them to respond to us, and so we will know by, I can't remember what the exact date was in November, but if you push that out 6 months, that'll be sometime in what, May time frame.
So am I hearing that we're going forward with trying to not appeal?
No, we're going forward with the appeal, and we will get that package submitted by the date in January. Again, I forget exactly which date that is, but we're on good pace too. We have a lot of the data built.
We have a deadline for it?
Yeah, that's what I can't remember what the exact date is, but it's sometime in January.
But unlike most dealings with FEMA, there's no suspense. They can take as long as they want.
Yeah.
If the state doesn't meet the suspense and it's approved, it's passed on. Is that correct?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, the state will. I mean, they're going to pass this through, and then it'll be on FEMA's plate. But I'll also say I've never seen FEMA not respond to an appeal timely. They'll respond to it, I'm sure.
If I can
I got a question.
jump in on this real quick, sorry. Even if FEMA comes back with a denial, there are still options for us to move forward with moving the site.
Yeah.
FEMA has essentially said, we will pay for you to rebuild, 4 million-ish, I think is what they came back with on that.
Yeah, it's in that range.
And then we would have to find other ways to come up with the 6 to 7 million that it would cost to prep the new site and get everything set up to be able to put that $4 million building on that site. Like I said, there are other options. If FEMA denies the appeal, we're still not completely shut down. It's just going to be a little more work for us.
Yeah, we've been, to Chris's point, we've been thinking through this for a while about, all the different scenarios that could come out from this, and one of them being even, we don't even get that extra 500,000 that we've just gotten. So now already feel like we're in a better place from there. But yeah, if we get completely denied on this and we're stuck at the dollar value that we're at right now, which Chris said is it's in the 4 million-ish range. We have some thoughts about ways we could try to get some additional funding over to still move it, because I think that's everyone's ultimate goal here, is we don't want to put that police fire station back at the current site.
Right.
Oh, good.
My question, I want to go back to the pier real quick.
Yeah.
Y'all have they've said, hey, we want you to go through a bid process to kind of get this number.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we're going to do this, but they're going to do that in real time. We've run into this before, this pier's realistically, probably 4 years away. How can we, I'd hate to get a number, hound on FEMA, get this money, and then it goes time to build it, and we're, short, and then the same thing.
Sure.
So I don't know how to go about that. What's your opinion?
Yeah, and it's kind of just my opinion. I mean, you guys have ability to do this, and also I would advise to, BDI, the design firm, that they're going to be the ones working through the bidding process.
Yeah.
It's probably something worthwhile chatting with them about as well. But theoretically, the idea could be that and this has been discussed with BDI too, is that they could get through the bidding process, do a purchase of all of the materials on the front side. So that's a big chunk of the cost. And then they would kind of be locked in on that. And then the material and labor stuff, or excuse me, the labor stuff, not material stuff, would be down the road. So the other option too, right, is like when you bid something out, and this is where it gets into kind of a situation where if you bid something out, right, like there's an expectation from those firms that are bidding that you're going to accept, right? But you don't have to legally. Like if you can put something out for bid, get all of those bid responses, and you guys as the city always have the option not to accept any of those responses. And from FEMA's perspective, and this is just me telling from the FEMA side, once we have all those bid responses, then they can make a costing based on that, which is to Tim's point, what they're trying to get to at the end. Their cost is too low. They're saying we don't have a lot of good intel on how much it would cost to build a pier. If you can give us the bids and show us, then we can give you a more accurate costing.
You just built two of them, Panama City and then Panama City Beach.
Yeah, we've had those arguments, and I will say I'm not 100%. I'm 100% with you on that. We've made those arguments, and they just aren't viable.
My other question, I
Yeah.
wanted to go back to pier too. It's been 6 years. How do we, and I wasn't here, you were.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't on council yet, and maybe Jerry was, but how, did we ever give them a number?
Yes, we've given them a number.
And number was?
Now you're stretching my memory, but I want to say it was in the range of around 10 million. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
let's say it's 10 million.
Yeah.
So it's been 6 years. That 10 million is probably 20 million now.
Fair. I will say the one caveat to that is that when that costing was put together, that wasn't 6 years ago at the very beginning of the disaster. That
Okay,
was
it's probably 4 years.
It was probably 3.
My point is going forward.
Yep.
We're doing another bid.
Yep.
Should we give them an escalated bid per year? Maybe force it down their throat that if they don't do it in this year,
Yeah.
they're gonna pay this price in year 2 and this price in year 3?
We can definitely put that out there. You know, we've made those arguments before on other projects, and FEMA tends to kind of ignore that, if I'm being honest. So I'm not saying it's not a fair argument either. Definitely, you won't hear flack from me on saying, yep, you have to put cost escalation in. I mean, work for an engineering firm, so we know that.
I
But
believe there was one built last year, it was 27 million, which is similar to what we're doing. I can't remember which county, but they have built one similar to ours.
Yeah, I think I heard of that one.
and to your point, I mean, yeah, the escalation is the question, right? Because we bid this out. I mean, we're gonna get the price that's, if it's 27 million, if it's 15, whatever it is, we're gonna get a price in real time right now that is going to be more accurately reflective than anything we could estimate. But then we have the question mark of how long is it gonna take before we get there?
Well, I
So,
think,
yeah.
I mean, this is all a story that you put together, right? Between you and Gina, I think. But as you guys put it together, it needs to be a story. It needs to be a story. We're at this. We were told 10 million to build it. Now we're 6 years later and we're looking at 27 million.
Yeah.
You need to help us here because now we're going from 27 to 47.
Right.
At what point do we say we're going to build it or they're just not going to fund it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I'll say from the FEMA perspective, I mean, this is why we're going through the bid process, right? Is that they will replace the cost because this is a standard lane project. We're not locked into a dollar value. We're locked into the scope of work. So whatever it ends up costing, again, like they should accept that. That's how this works. But that's why I say your point's valid that if we get to, they've accepted a cost in 2024 and then we don't get the project obligated until 2027, then that cost is going to have changed, and that's the problem that I see. It's a problem that if, I guess I would say it like this, that if we get those bids and FEMA comes back tomorrow and is like, okay, the project's obligated, go forward, I'm not worried because they're going to reimburse us based on the actual costs. But my concern is the same as yours, that if they don't obligate it immediately, then we've got an obligated cost that then is different from what's down.
So Ryan, one question, clarification though. So they're not going to approve or the bid until the biological and environmental work is done. Is that correct?
Approve the bid, you mean like the cost?
It's a cost fee, is they're gonna.
They'll take the costs on as they are, but then we
Okay.
can't move the project all the way through until it gets, it's kind of like there's almost like two, like you were talking about
Right.
before, there's two different paths. One is the cost path and one is the environmental
So,
path.
to be clear, it's not just environmental, they have a biological approval study, which includes US Fisheries and some other agencies. So, it's a long process, and they don't have timelines. They can take as long as they want.
Yeah, and that's what's very frustrating for sure, is that all these other agencies that aren't even FEMA necessarily are taking
And
a long time.
FEMA has no input, no control over these other agencies. They can only ask for a status. And this is where I think when we figure out where we're at, maybe we go to the governor's office, some of our representatives or senators, to try and get some pressure on these federal agencies to move out.
The other challenge we're gonna have with this particular project is it would be easier if we were simply rebuilding what we previously had.
Yeah.
But this project is also asking to extend it out 200 feet into deeper water. We may be, the city of Mexico Beach may be on the hook for the additional cost to move it that 200 feet.
Right.
So that's something else to kind of keep in the back of our minds.
But one thing we're doing is, the BDI is preparing the bid for both contingencies, the 200 foot out and the other one, so that if we have a problem with the 200 foot, we can go back to the not adding the 200 feet, it's too costly. So I think a lot of things are being done to help expedite what we can, and plan A, plan B in this, but it's taken a long time.
Well, I wanna say a thorn in their side, to use that for your name, but you need to be a thorn in their side. As do Ryan and
Yeah.
you guys need to stay
Understood.
on them, you know that.
Yep.
We got three people fighting for it, you need to fight for it every day.
Yep, and Tim's been great helping, and Chris as well, jumping into a project that obviously, has a lot of different moving pieces.
All right, well, we're getting information, so we need to keep that going, and we need to really push for it. We can't go another 4 years.
Yep. I hear
You told me that same thing 4 years ago, but you just got to tell me.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
Derek.
however long the bid, I don't want you to jump on me like you did to me, I don't want you to put that in the bid. But if I have a loan, every time you or Dina come, this is the same story.
Yeah.
It might be a different page or a different color, it's the same story, for the same amount of years. So what have we done for the last 4 years? If this environmental, and I'm not putting you on the spot, I think we're gonna
Yeah.
damn, if we ain't waited long enough to do something.
Yeah.
Let's do something. I'm putting dynamite up under them. Let's do something to make these people move. I'll be dead before we get up here.
Yeah.
Well,
Think about it.
one option available to us, and I'm not recommending this, is we could submit a congressional inquiry into this. I would recommend we go to the governor's office before we do that. And I say that because congressional only slows the agency down and makes them angry at us. But it's a lot of work and it draws attention, and I would be happy, I have done congressionals before, and I would be happy to write one up.
Well, again, I think we should put some pressure on them. I don't know if it's time to piss them off yet, but definitely put some pressure on them.
I think we should have done that. But let me get back to the fire station.
Yeah.
We went to Callaway, however many years ago, got some time, and looked at that fire station, and we designed this one after that. And then now it's dead. I mean, I don't quite understand why we was that far getting that close to getting the design, and now we got, when you said they rescinded it, that's what happened, they took it away.
They rescinded what they originally, so, I mean, this gets into the design piece that I think is also something that may be worthwhile to talk about with the design firm on the police fire. But, basically, I think the way we're gonna, like, one of the plans, this is really complicated. One of the possible options for getting over to the new site is to do this project as like a caps project. I think I've mentioned this before, but essentially we take the costs of what it would be at the old site, and we say to FEMA, hey, we're just gonna take that dollar figure and do it over there. So that's something we always, as a city, have the option to do.
We
And it's
haven't
all
asked that yet.
right, and we haven't had, yeah, we're not to that yet, but we always have that as a fallback. And the part of the reason for that is because just in the discussions with the design firms, they've kind of said, we're teetering on the edge of having enough to actually do it over there. There's some site work that we have to do at a bare minimum, like putting in sewer lines. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, you have to build a bridge across the creek or something there. Again, these are better questions for the design folks than for myself. But basically, part of this effort too is just trying to get up to a higher dollar value at the old site at a minimum, so that we can have an option to do at the new site. And I think, just from my experience, like there's some things you could do at the new site to make it fit, almost reverse engineer, to use a term, like know what your dollar figure is and then try to back into what that number is. But I think we really want to get that number up high enough so that that's actually possible.
So let me ask you, so we've been approved for this 4 million?
Yes.
plus the 500.
Yeah.
So just tell me, how long is this appeal process? I mean, do we need, we've said before, we're gonna go down the road, but.
Yeah. The appeal process will take 6 months from November, whatever that date is that again, sorry, I can't remember it off the top of my head. But that'll be a dead set date. The other thing that happens, so that you guys are aware, is that appeal process, I know I keep talking about different paths, the appeal process is happening over here on this path. FEMA, at the same time as they issue a determination memo, starts pushing the project forward for obligation. So they're pushing forward that $4 million project for obligation. This is to our benefit, because if they deny the appeal, we have the project moved further
That's what I wanna know.
Yeah, but if we get the appeal, then basically what they do is they still obligate that project, and then they come back, amend the project, and put the
I
additional
just wanna
funding.
start getting timelines on this stuff.
Yeah.
When we can make a decision, say, let's not go any further, let's build it.
So we'll
from what we
know
got.
6 months from now whether or not we've been denied, or whether or not we've been partially granted it or fully granted it or whatever. And then we can make a decision about, okay, here's how much we have dollar-wise, how can we make that happen over at the new site? And again, that will involve discussions with the design firm to try to figure out how to do that.
Thanks, Roy. Yeah, I know you weren't planning to speak this long.
All right. Always here for you guys, try to answer the questions.
I would recommend, this is an important topic, and maybe once a month, at least have it on the agenda so we can talk about updates if there are any. As I think it's of high interest to the public, and just to keep the council informed, since we can't really talk about a lot of things outside of this.
Yeah.
Bruce?
That's good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And can I say one other thing that's going on too, just in the FEMA world, is we are working, a lot of our efforts are going towards closeout now, of projects, which is basically like, all right, FEMA, you've done all of the levels of review. And just to put it in a little bit of perspective, we had over 50 public assistance projects, and right now we've gotten up to 15 of them are completely closed out, which is awesome. It's good movement. It's things we don't have to deal with anymore. And we probably got another 5 or 6 that are in that closeout process, which is just, I can't explain to you how long and laborious it is to go through that and get needled on, being off by 5 cents on something from 5 years ago. But I'm really happy. That's one thing that I think is going well that I'll mention, that we're really moving a lot of projects towards closeout now, which is great for the city. So.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Appreciate the update. Okay, moving on, next subject, appointment of planning and zoning, expiring terms that are coming up for 3 members. Mr. Truitt.
Ms. Brunson, do we have those names?
Yes.
Okay. These 3 positions are coming up. We have confirmed with each of them that they want to continue to serve. So the recommendation is to move forward with appointing each of their positions on P&Z.
Is that just a yay and nay on our side, or?
Motion is second.
A motion is second?
for each person separately or for the entire group?
We do all three of them at one time?
I just have one question. Do we have alternates at this point?
We currently have one alternate, we have one opening.
Okay.
So since we're in this public forum, we are looking for an alternate for the planning and zoning committee.
One thing I'll mention about your alternate situation, most cities that I'm aware of don't have alternates, okay? And in your situation where you have alternates, there's been a situation where the alternates, even though they can't vote, the question is, can they ask questions, can they participate? So I think one of the things you all need to think about is there a need for alternates? And if you all decide there is, then how do you want them, if at all, to participate when they're not one of the voting members?
We currently let them sit at the table and ask questions and answer and whatever, and then we don't allow them to
It's a little
vote.
cumbersome if they're not gonna vote.
Right.
It's just something for y'all to think about.
Yeah, you would think that as an alternate, they're asked to sit at the table, that they should be able
I
to
didn't
vote on
find-
it,
I
or
didn't
we should
find-
just not
I was on the P and Z as an alternate, I didn't see it as an issue.
being able to vote.
I think being able to talk but not vote, they do vote if somebody on the main board is missing and absent, so personally, I didn't see it as an issue.
Yeah, I like the way it's currently run, where they sit at the table and have input, but there's 5 members voting.
Okay.
Well, my question was, if one of the five's out, they're sitting in the seat.
Then they vote.
They do vote.
Yes.
That's all I need.
And I think it's somewhat of a training process for them as well, the experiences sitting
No.
there.
Yeah, it's pretty hands-on. Yeah, good. All right, well, we're good with that, so I guess we're looking for a motion, or if we want to approve all 3 for extending their terms.
Yeah, so
I have
I-
one more question.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. How many times are they allowed to miss meetings? Because we do see that with some of the people on the
So
team.
the rules, I believe, don't, it's not like with the council. So they are allowed to miss meetings, there's no specified time limit.
I don't remember any.
Yeah, there's nothing currently in the land development code that talks to the rules of the P and Z. So if that's something you want to change, we can talk about that, but I guess, but, it's not like the council.
Maybe we could bring that back up, I mean, install the members and then bring
Well,
that
while
back.
you're doing the process of re-examining the LDC,
Mhm.
I think you can talk about that.
Okay.
Because all the rules for the P and Z are in the land development code. It talks about their responsibilities and terms and et cetera.
So something like that can be added.
Could,
perhaps.
it could be part of the discussion with the update. All right, so can I make a motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I motion that we reappoint to the Planning and Zoning Board Jack Kerrigan, Steve Cox, and Larry Henderson.
I have a second.
I'll second it.
Tammy, take a roll, please.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Wolf?
I will thank, yes. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to citizens' comments, who actually come up to the podium.
I think we got the mobile app.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, I will make this fairly quick for you. During my interview, I had mentioned that I had implemented a mobile application for resident communications, code enforcement, and citizen request management at my previous employer, and there was some interest expressed. And then a couple of weeks ago, Councilwoman Hamilton forwarded an email from that same app developer talking about that code enforcement software. So I thought this would be a prime opportunity to do a presentation of what this is, to get some guidance from the council to see if it's something you want to move forward with at this time or not. I will say that the presentation and information I have is based solely on my experience with one particular vendor. This isn't necessarily an endorsement of that vendor, just again, my own personal experience and what I've seen from it. So in the packet that you have, I've included the email from Connor over at GoGov to Ms. Hamilton talking about the code enforcement software, along with their sales material, their blurb about GoEnforce. But if you wouldn't mind, oh, we have the PowerPoint up. Thank you. I'm just gonna go over some of the high-level features very quickly. If you have questions, feel free to jump in. I'm happy to explain. If we can hit the next slide. What this is, it's actually more of a digital multi-tool. It incorporates the app ecosystem, or everything that it does incorporates citizen reports. So citizens can take a picture of a pothole, send it in, and it goes directly to Public Works. Citizens can snap a photo of a code violation, and it goes directly to code. It has a communication component, so we can send out various emergency management things, as well as a building, or permit, I should say, component to the application. We could jump to the next slide. I gotta spin this over. So citizen requests is probably the way that I used it the most where I came from. It eliminates the need for citizens to try to figure out which department to reach out to, or by default calling the clerk, or calling Julie, or calling myself. They simply go online with their app, or on the website with our website version of the app, tell us what's going on, what they need, and away it goes. The requests are trackable by the citizens, so as soon as they put a request in, they're part of the system. As we work through that request, they're updated in the process. So when Mr. Lindeman puts in a request for a pothole in front of the street, he can see when that gets assigned to Public Works, when Public Works sends somebody out to fix it, and then when it's actually completed and totally fixed and good to go. So that kind of eliminates the phone calls coming back from residents asking questions about it. The thing that I, as the administrator, like most about that is I can generate reports on it. So we can see everything from who's requesting what, which areas of the city are having requests most frequently. That's good to use in things like flooding. And it also helps us understand the time it takes. So from the time Mr. Lindeman reported that pothole, how long did it take us and how many hours could we spend fixing it? That's very helpful for budgeting. If we know that it's going to take 8 employee hours to fix a pothole at $20 an hour or whatever it is, we can start pricing some of these things that we have to fix. If you can jump to the next slide here. Wow, you are so ahead of me here. Awesome. Citizen notifications is huge. I use this quite frequently down there. In a nutshell, we can set up different lists. These notifications come into the app just like an email or a text notification. You can choose to be notified for emergencies only. So, avoid this road because of an accident. You can choose to be notified. We can set notifications for important P&Z agenda items. And residents can choose to only be updated by those, or they can choose to be updated about everything that goes out. Anybody at Mexico Beach working for the city can't send his notifications out. It's just a quick web form that you use to send it. Those wanting to use the notifications, there's no sign up, there's no account created, so we don't have a public record of who is actually using the app. It can be, unless they go to report something, it's completely anonymous. They don't have to worry about it. Notification history is also stored in the application, so you can go back and see every notification done since we implemented the system to kind of follow through what's going on. Code enforcement is another component. This is what we were just starting to get into when I left my previous employer. When we take a picture of a rundown house, that automatically goes over to code, and that sets up a timeline. Within the system, code now has this task to complete, which is go inspect the house. Once code inspects the house, then they can, using the system, generate all the letters and communications that have to go out automatically. So it'll spit out the letter that has to be mailed to the property owner saying you have 10 days to fix this. If you don't, we're going to start assessing fines. It can send out a reminder, 5 days after that. Code enforcement can use the app to follow the case all the way through, whether it's taken care of and closed out or goes through the special master. Again, from my perspective, one of the key things about this particular component is that history and reporting. we can see that the same address is generating many complaints, or that a specific address has the same complaint coming every 3 weeks. And that gives us the tools that we need to do a little bit better enforcement or pay a little bit better attention to it. Jumping into the next, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of what the use cases could be for this and why it might be beneficial. Tourist information is a key one. We can put up a QR code on the dune walkovers. Residents can use that QR code to grab, or visitors I should say, can use that QR code to grab the app. Within the app, we can put important information. Here's police non-emergency, here's fire non-emergency. Here are the beach regulations, no dogs, no bottles, no fireworks. We can even take that a step farther and say, getting hungry, here are some of our local restaurants. Or here's our local, here's a coupon for the general store so you can get some beverages or something, whatever we want to do, put that information in there. The tourists would then automatically also have that notification capability. So if we have to immediately shut down the beaches for some reason, we get a bacteria warning or something, I'm not sure. We send out that notification saying evacuate the beaches. Or when Sharknado hits, we can say get out of here, go indoors. It's just another tool, and again, you don't have to register for an account to use it, you just download the app and install it on your Apple or iPhone. The next use case is workload management. This is proof that our public works guys have, or our utilities guys have a pretty crappy job. This was the sewer main break, the photo on here. But we can use it for workload management. So we know every week that we have to hit specific locations for mowing and weed eating, or read specific meters, or whatever the case may be, regular tasks. We can put all those into the app. The app, our public director, our public utilities, public works director, or utilities director, or those of us in admin or what have you can assign those tasks to specific employees, and then we can track. We can see this particular employee has 10 things left to do, just called out sick. Can we get somebody else to take over these tasks? This also gives us the time it takes to complete those tasks. We start to understand that if we send somebody out to mow 3 blocks on Highway 98, it's going to take them an hour to do that. So we can start using that in workforce planning as well as budgeting expenses. It also generates reports. We can look at how long it takes a task from noticing it needs to be done until noticing it needs to be completed. This will help us also understand a little bit more about efficiency. If we have certain employees that are able to complete tasks a lot quicker than others, what are they doing? How can we take those same tools and techniques to the other employees to help them improve efficiency? And then the final case management is citizen complaint tracking. This is actually a photo of a house not too far away that we're working on taking through the code process. What this does, as I mentioned before, it enables us to track which houses are, which properties are generating complaints, what those complaints are. It allows those submitting the complaints to follow the process, so they know I complained about this specific lot. Oh, I can see that code enforcement has been out there to look at it, and now we're in the waiting the 10 days process, or whatever the case may be. They can follow it through. So it reduces the need for residents to call City Hall for updates, or to see this lot sitting there for 30 days unmowed, thinking we're not actually doing our job, when in reality there's about 7 different contacts with the property owner where we're giving them extra time because of whatever situation. So it eliminates some of those weird situations where residents don't know what's going on and try to fill in the blanks. The last slide is future expansion. We could, in theory, run anything that we do in paper through this system. So development orders, business licenses, golf cart permits, event permits, fence permits, boat slip leases, perhaps some of the EPCI application, we can all run through here. It becomes an electronic document rather than a paper document that we store, and it also manages workflow. So if that permit has to go through code and then fire and then administrator, we can set that up. So as soon as a permit is generated, or as soon as a request is generated, it's automatically routed to Sandy. And then it's automatically routed to Kathy, and then it's automatically routed to me so that we can handle these. So that's just a very quick overview. The app itself, if you hit the next slide on there, the initial, no matter which vendor we go with, the initial setup is done by the vendor. We give them the graphics and the workflows, build it out with them. After that initial setup, Mexico Beach staff would be the ones that would tweak it moving forward, adding users, changing workflows, adding forms, those sorts of things. The final slide is pricing. Again, this is just based on what I've seen. This is not a specific quote from any particular vendor. Something like this is going to run between $10,000 and $20,000 a year. So let me finish this up by saying a year. Let me finish this up by saying this is not a need. We are functioning very well without this. There had been some questions about the application as well as the code enforcement use of it. So I wanted to present this information to the council to see if this is something that you would like to move forward with or not. My recommendation, I was the one that implemented it, the previous employer, because I saw the value that it presented to the administration and to the residents. However, that is a significant cost. And like I said, it's not necessarily a need. So I'm threw all this information at you. Are there any questions that I can answer for you?
Well, just because of your past experience and you saw the value, I think it would be a tremendous asset to our city because it's going to make each department be more efficient, and I think it's going to allow the citizens and the public just to have a better general knowledge and know how to tap into information that's their concern. And it sounds like you've had great experience with the company.
Absolutely.
And my only thing, I think it's great, but I would like to know where in the budget, where are we gonna get the money from before I would wanna move? Have you had any thoughts on that? Have you looked through the budget, tried where we would, where does it fall in?
This would require a budget amendment, but there is one project where we budgeted a full $60,000 for the full project for this fiscal, and we're actually only going to be doing the engineering this fiscal.
What project is it?
Is that the Dune Walk?
Dune Walk River, thank you.
So you're thinking about pulling it from, and that's what I wanted to know. We also had another one, I don't know if you know, we had cameras that were supposed to be at City Hall. We had budgeted like $25,000.
We're moving forward on that.
We are moving forward. I would just want to do either, if we're going to start it early, let's definitely find where and let us.
Yep, exactly. The other option is reserve fund. But
what program did you say you were pulling it from?
Dune walkovers.
Thank you.
But that's not a guaranteed. That's just one place that I found.
Chris, so it's an app only, there's no way that you could look at this on the web, I take it?
You can.
So you could do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Excuse me, I want to go to the audience, sir. Come on up, man.
My question has to do with if citizens...
What's your name and address?
Oh, sorry. Lorraine Lindsay, 207 Florida. If we do this as citizens and we sign into this program, I want to know what kind of information is going out there on the web and what kind of protections I have in this reporting process.
Yeah, absolutely. I can answer that for you. As with any code complaint, for example, if you submit a code complaint, your information is public record, whether it's done on paper or whether it's done online. So if you do that, your information is public record and subject to a public records request. We don't go out and post it and say, hey, this resident did this today. But if it's part of a public records request.
And so what kind of information is going out there? Just, I mean, is it my name, my address, my phone number?
Name, address, phone number, email.
Okay, because I personally, I don't want my phone number out there. I pay for my own phone and it's nobody else's business. So, you know, that's going to restrict willingness to participate in this program.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I'm just saying.
Yep. If you choose to do just get the notifications and the app part of it and not report anything or create an account, then nothing is shared. So you have that option. But yeah, I hear you. Public records requests it's a lot of information to put out there.
Okay.
Anybody else? Come on up.
Lisa Logan, Maryland. I can see the use of this in a town of some size. I think in a town the size of Mexico Beach, this is not necessary. It sounds almost like you want to stop phone calls from coming into City Hall or people complaining in person. So I wouldn't be participating in it. Y'all need to see my face quite often at City Hall. So I think in a town this size, something like this, the benefits do not outweigh a cost. So I understand a whole lot. Most everybody is more technologically inclined than I am, but I just don't see the use of something like this for these purposes. A lot of this data you say that it will collect, you should already have a lot of this data. Whether you can find the records or not is another thing, but I think it's for the cost, it's not good for Mexico Beach.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Oh, can I ask one more?
Come on up. Yes, ma'am.
I forgot. Lorene
I've been there.
Lorene Lindsay, Florida Avenue. One of the great things I think we could do with this is if we could get the beach flag information on this website so that we have, when visitors come, that we can notify them of beach conditions, because to my knowledge, we don't do that right now. And I know in the past, a red tide or when the jellyfish come in and things like that, people need to know about, which I think would be an awesome use of this, just as a
Citizen notification.
citizen's notification of those types of conditions. Yeah, I think that's great.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Have back at the table. Yeah.
Well, I think so many times citizens complain about different things, or they say, oh, we're seeing workers sleeping on the job, or they're hanging out here or hanging out there. This is going to be a way of the citizens being able to track the efficiency of the workers as well. So they'll just be able to know what people are doing from day to day, hour to hour as well. So it's like it's going to answer a lot of questions and a lot of doubts, and I think put more confidence in our employees. I just think it's going to be a wealth of information to be able to pass it on this way. And like you say, if you don't want your phone number out there, then you don't have to go through that method. You could call the office and then convey your concern if you did not want it to be out publicly with your phone number and address.
I like the platform only that there are probably 10 or 11 sections in the platform. I pulled out 4 of them because those are 4 that I think that would apply to us and help. I pulled out the citizen complaint tracking, citizen notification, code enforcement, and then I kind of like the QR code signs at the beach so that people can get notified of what our rules are and regulations. I think there might be a way that we can use it, but on a smaller platform than what it offers.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with, we're, the budget, money. Hey,
It's changed.
I mean, we need to know, this is saying you wanna recommend moving, I guess, just my speaking. I'm okay with them and doing some more research on, the exact and where we're gonna go with this budget and stuff. It's just, and it may be where we just wait till next year, and get it to, because, that's June, July, start looking at that.
Yeah, I'd like to say something on Jason's in support of that. Great introduction. I think there's some meat there. There's no reason why we couldn't wait till next year to assess and say, let's do it, because we got our plate full right now.
Yeah,
We got 26 projects going in Mexico Beach right now. So it's not to say that we can't visit at a later date.
One thing that just popped into my head regarding the QR codes, we can still put QR codes up at the beaches and just have that direct to a website. So it'll be a page on our site saying dogs or whatever the case may be.
Just look into the, you know, some stuff. I don't really wanna take it from the dune walker. I mean, I know we may not make it this year.
It's not being taken from it, Jason. What was budgeted won't be needed. We scaled that down. So that's an extra 20,000 that could be used for something else or back in the budget.
Just look.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm recommending we move forward because it's an awesome tool. My feelings aren't hurt if we say no, because like I said, we are functioning fine without it.
No, I think it's a great tool, you know, this is the way things are moving in life, you know, so.
That's my comment right there, what you just said, moving in life. Well, I'm the only one at this table that's not computer privy or whatever you want to call it. So I would have to ask Ms. Brinson and Judy that does most of your work for you, what would this be to them? I mean, when they gonna put all this in, that's got to go somewhere. And I don't think you're gonna do it all, not unless I'm wrong. You're gonna depend on the two girls. Ms. Brinson, what you got to say?
I have no comment.
I have not filled the two of them in.
About it, so.
I have not filled the two of them in on the back end of this and what that would look like.
Well, I'm for waiting to the budget then.
I would like to add, my concern too is certain particular departments, like we have a very extensive list for code enforcement. So there's a lot of concern in the city about the number of lots that aren't being attended. Why is that? So if we had this app, then people could certainly follow the path of that. So like Rich said, maybe we could limit it to get the cost down to certain areas, but building permits, people want to know more about building permits, how things have come along. Those are important areas that I think the citizens have a right to know a little bit more about the path of that and where we are and the efficiency of that. You know, just like this house that we're looking at, possibly to have it demoed. That house has been sitting there for 6 years. That's a big problem. You know, it'd be nice to get things moving in a more efficient way.
So that's my input on this is, I like the idea. I'm not sure if this tool is the one. It's probably got way more capability than I think we want to use at this point. So if we can get a lower cost app or tool, I think it has to be able to be seen on the web because not everybody has a smartphone or knows how to use an app. Because we have it's the community we have. I'll tell you the cost surprises me. I know it's a lot, but it's really not. I've been involved with other tools, mayor's hotlines that for like $70,000, $80,000 a year as a minimum. I am concerned about who would manage the data. Who would that fall on? Because that's going to be a lot of information to keep track of or do something with. And I would be concerned about how the app uses my phone. What information is it tracking on my phone? You know, how do we ensure that they're not collecting on me like many other free apps or apps out there? That's it.
And one of the things that this obviously brings up at the table is there's a need to communicate to citizens about code enforcement, tracking complaints, notifying people of rules on the beach. So if we could find ways to do that without the app, we should be exercising that. I agree with you. But if the app's needed, I'm all for it, that's the solution. But we need better information on our code enforcement. We need better information on citizen notifications, complaints, tracking, and informing people.
One other thing, I would be careful of development orders, building permits, fences, boat slips, because I don't know that really fits on this. And so there can be online documents that you can fill out and turn in, but I know like just boat or the boat slips. There's a little more to that than just scheduling a boat slot online because of the size and some other things come into it. I would be concerned about anything other than really simple request. Maybe the golf cart and the boat ramp permits, you could do that, but I wouldn't go any deeper than that at this time until we figure it out.
Well, Chris, since you've experienced this app, did you see some of these concerns, or, can you explain why it shouldn't be a concern?
Yeah, absolutely. App data collection and records retention was a huge consideration as we looked at this. The app itself is going to gather, similar to every other app, device type, operating system, and then location. And it does that so that when you submit the request or complaint or what have you, it knows where you are and can kind of pre-fill that. All the data is kept by the company, which in my experience, the one that I have used is GoGov Apps. They maintain all the data, and then upon request, if it's something that we are able to access, so for example, how many complaints about X on these dates, we can pull that through simple reporting. If it's something more complicated, like of the downloads, how many are apples or what have you, then we have to go to GoGov to get that information. But they follow the most stringent record retention requirements out of all they have dozens of municipalities that participate.
So does it remain proprietary to the city, or could they sell it to?
They cannot sell it. They cannot sell it.
Okay. That'd be the kind of concern I would have about that.
Just real quick on the backside of the reporting, we would set up the reports that we need to generate on a regular basis, so this wouldn't be additional work for anyone beyond that. We hit the button that says generate overgrown lawn report, and it would spit out which locations have that and what the status is. So the goal of any tech solution is to eliminate physical work from employees, and just transfer that over to the tech solution.
Well, at the first of the year, we're gonna get together and talk about the 5-year capital and things like that. I really think that's the time when we ought to look at that and kind of see if it's something we want to plan for in the future.
Mr. Mayor, the chief had
Mayor, we're going through a change of reporting systems in the fire department. And the initial setup takes a certain amount of time, but going forward, this new system is going to actually save us a huge amount of time, because all the information goes in bit by bit as people do truck checks and so on and so forth. Say there's a send in a complaint, and then I will literally be able to sit in my computer, put in a code that will give me that particular report or truck check, and it will tell me every single day it's been done, every single time it's been done, who did it, and so on and so forth. So the initial setup takes a bit of time, but these new apps that people are designing now will, in the long run, save you a lot of time, 100%. They're not cheap.
Right. How's the council want to move forward?
I'd recommend let Chris look at it with our input so far and come back to us later in the year when we want to, like you said, maybe January when we talk about the CIP.
Good?
Is that good with you, Chris?
Absolutely.
We should really get 5 minutes between each subject to adjust papers.
Between.
Leaves on me.
Put them in the note.
There you go. We're moving to citizens' comments, and if you come to the podium.
John Harrell, 43 First Street. I'm actually here today representing...
Oh, last house in Bay County.
Well, I was representing the Special Events Committee, so I didn't know if that was appropriate, but I'll take it.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm here representing the Special Events Committee, and I know we have a lot of new people that are moving in, and I'm surprised that the citizens don't realize the Special Events Committee is made up of volunteers. Our own Councilwoman Hamilton is actually one of them. Our mission is to raise money for the fireworks. The city doesn't pay for the fireworks. The money we raise through special events pays for the fireworks. So I'm here to talk about Turkey Trot, which we thought was very successful. But we don't do it alone when we do these projects through the year. We have Turkey Trot, the run on 4th of July, and then our biggest fundraiser is the Gumbo Cook-Off, which is February 15th this year, so write it down. Anyway, we want to thank Tommy Davis and Public Works for putting the flag and the trash cans up. Chief Walker had his firemen out there, 2 shifts were out there to take care of parking, which ran a whole lot smoother than it did 4th of July. Lieutenant Williams, I want to thank him and his deputies for putting the cones out, leading our participants down the road safely till they got to 98. Apparently, everyone made it to Thanksgiving dinner. No one got ran over. I think we have one lady get stung, and your guys took care of it right away. No one got sick like they did 4th of July throwing up, so that was good. We also want to thank, of course, Kimberly and Kathy at CDC. They help us throughout the whole year. But again, we can't do it by ourselves, but that's our mission. And we want to thank everybody that made it a success, and we hope Gumbo's going to be a very big success this year. So again, for the Special Events Committee, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? If we're good, we're going to move to council comments.
Just a quick question for Mr. Truitt. It kind of came up in a little side discussion at City Hall. The old dredge, when is it? I mean,
Mr. Tommy, would you care to,
I will be more than happy. Mr. Garrison is in the process of trying to get that moved. They were down there this morning and got the snout picked up, chained up, and they tried to move it last weekend. They come down, they could not get the snout up on it. I told Mark that if they tried to do it during the weekday, we could give them some help to get it up. So they're working on it right now, but they're having sea tow to tow it out. So hopefully, I know I told y'all this like 4 meetings ago, but hopefully it will be gone this week. They're working on it today. They're down today working on that. So that's where we're at with it.
okay.
Mr. Adams has requested that we put that on a flatbed and park it at his place.
But you could.
I got it.
You could feed that.
There you go. Anything else on the table?
I guess I'm real quick. So I just want to let the citizens know that the kayak launch is finally going into place. If you go down to Canal Parkway, you'll see it by the lift station at the corner where it looks like the 70-degree jog. They've got the docks in place, and I think they're working on getting the ramp, and that should be happening here really quick. I want to thank January for all the hard work she put in on that, and the other folks. And then the 15th Street pedestrian bridge, that has gone out, we're getting ready to go out for bid, is that correct?
Correct. Fish and Wildlife just gave their approval.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're only looking months now probably from having that in, right?
I don't know.
That's a question.
What is the holdup on that?
In theory, it had to go through an extra approval process. So now that that's done, the designs have been approved. There's not going to be any negative environmental impact if we can put it up.
So, circling back to what he said on the launch, that was one thing when I was down there this morning. I see them working on it, but I know it's got to be done by the end of this year. Are we?
I think they're okay.
We're good.
Close.
It was supposed to be by the end of last week, and now until the end of this week. So it's just a matter of putting in a couple of pilings, and then.
I know January said, we got to take the pictures. So just.
Yeah, they ran into a technical issue with how to attach that ramp, but I think Tommy's guys have figured it out, and so we'll meet it. We'll should get our money back for what we put in. It's only taken 2.5 years.
So, just to jump back to the 15th Street, sorry, I finally got my notes pulled up. Anchor, the engineers are currently assembling the final set of drawings for the procurement package, and then as soon as we get that from them, which I believe should be by the end of next week, we'll be able to put that out for bid.
And then one
And so
last,
Chris, is that what they call a gator bridge? It's like a metal bridge? Is that-
yeah.
Okay.
And then one last thing. Chris is doing a great job with all the projects, and I think this is posted on the website.
It is.
So if citizens want to know what the status is, it's got a great tracking sheet that shows the current status and also shows where we're at with dates. So that should help answer your questions.
Anybody else?
The golf course parade, we had a good turnout for it. Had a good time, a lot of people. Appreciate the public and the city, Tommy, everybody participated. We really looked well. 50-something golf carts.
Okay. Sandy, you got something on it?
As you're well aware, Christmas is around the corner. The fire department every Christmas morning takes presents to all the children in Mexico Beach. We had a great turnout, obviously, at the lighting ceremony, which for presents and so on and so forth. But now I need to know when the new kids are. There are people moving into the city that I don't know. They may not know us, may not know we do this. So if any of you know of any children or parents that may not have told us where they are, please get them to report to the City Hall and the fire department, their address and so on, and we'll make it happen on Christmas morning. I'm going to put it out on Facebook as well with Julie, but I know, I see two people at the back nodding because I know of some people who live up at the new, at the crossing. So, and that's the type of thing we need, is just people to keep their ear out, let those people know that we will be coming around if we know where they are. Okay?
So Sandy, your delivery would just be to Mexico Beach, is that correct?
Exactly, and then whatever we have left over at the end of the day, we actually give to an adoption agency in Panama City for the less fortunate kids in the adoption agency.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, that's the table. Mayor comments, the only thing I had was the same thing Tim brought up. Project list, 26 projects Mexico Beach is working on. This tells you everything that we could answer. It's on our website. City Administrator got it on there. It'll be updated as needed. Take a look at it. Did you have something on that, Julie?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
All right. You sure? Yeah, sure. The other thing is, just so you know what's going on in the city as far as some of the things the city administrator is working on. Can you explain the program we just got that kind of updates everything for minutes and stuff like that, or if we have a meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. We're again leveraging technology. We purchased a app or system called Otter.ai, and what it does, it listens to the meetings that we have and transcribes everything word for word, but then it also has artificial intelligence to summarize. So basically, it listens to the whole meeting and spits out a summary that we can then use to generate minutes. It does that for city council meetings, it does that for planning and zoning meetings. This is actually saving quite a few staff hours from having to do all this manually. The coolest thing about it though is for every meeting that we record, it keeps all that information. So we can go back through, it's artificial intelligence. We punch in the question, how many times has Mr. Harold mentioned he's the last house in Bay County? And it will pull up everything through every meeting where he said, I'm the last house in Bay County.
The mayor did.
But it's a great resource because we can ask it, you know, back in January we said something about the boat ramp, what was that? And it'll actually pull it out for us and we don't have to sit and listen to it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Recently, a citizen who's out walking their dog, on 3 very short occasions, found 3 syringes on our streets. One was a loaded syringe, it was reported. One of the officers did go out and collect it. But Marty, you said you did not sample that. I mean, you didn't send it anywhere to find out any further information.
No, we've got no victim, we've got no witness, we've got no suspect.
But you had a loaded syringe. What did you do with that?
We disposed of it.
How did you dispose of it? Okay. Like locally, or how did that go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would that not concern you as a professional police officer to be curious as to what was in that syringe? So what we know, maybe what's going on in our community with syringes. You know, 3 syringes by one person within a short period of time is concerning.
Well, as far as, finding it with somebody, we cannot put any charges on anybody without that.
But why would you not test that? Just out of
Because of
curiosity.
the cost of testing and sending it off and everything else, it's not relevant as far as testing.
But then you would have known the drug or whatever was in it, right?
We're looking at a cost issue on, you know, we don't have any suspects or anything else.
It was very concerning to the people that made that note and went through the effort to call an officer, to have it picked up, and to know that it had been disposed of, and nothing further came of that. That was concerning, because that was one person, 3 syringes in a short period of time. That was concerning, so there may be more syringes that are just here and there in the city. So that's a concern.
People throw them out the window all the time. It's, you know, diabetic syringes.
Diabetics take very good care of their syringes. They're very diligent.
I have seen, and I am a diabetic, and I have seen other people and what they do and stuff like that. But, ma'am, there's no precedence to have it tested. We have nobody that's been affected by it. There's nobody being affected by it. We have no victim. We have no witness. We have no suspect to charge them with it or anything else. So it's basically a moot point on testing it to see what's in it. You know, we might be letting Pandora out of the box with what's inside of it by testing it.
Well, but you know, it was a loaded syringe that a child could have picked up.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
it just seems like our curiosity should have gone beyond that.
All right.
All right, anything else at the table?
It is Christmas. We need to tell everybody Merry Christmas and just don't forget what Christ means for Christmas. Just don't leave it out.
Yes, ma'am.
I have something to say.
Oh, thanks.
Mr. Smith brought it up. During the Christmas season, those of you that travel down 7th Street, I'm sure, have noticed the iconic Mexico Beach Christmas tree at the corner of 7th and Georgia. And the city received an email from a little bird and made us aware that Mr. Smith would like to donate this iconic Christmas tree to the city and wanted to give us a little history on the Christmas tree and how it came about. And I'm just going to read the little blurb that she sent. Mr. Smith originally constructed this tree shortly after Hurricane Michael using what limited supplies he could find. Over the years, it has been updated, enhanced, and repaired by Mr. Smith and his neighbors. This tree has become a Mexico Beach seasonal landmark, always erected at the corner of 7th Street and Georgia Avenue. Mr. Smith's tree inspiration came from the devastation Michael left behind, as he was determined to have a monument of joy that represented his city's resilience, tenacity, and commitment to tradition. Mr. Smith's tree has become a cheerful custom enjoyed by the young and the young at heart since 2018. So, Mr. Smith, the city accepts your Christmas tree, and we thank you for your dedication and commitment to the city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's a document you have to sign from the board, or sign it over to us. Yeah, we're okay.
I'm too old to read more.
That, and we need you to pose for your bronze statue this afternoon.
And the piece of property bond. You can keep it right there.
All right, we got some staff comments.
We do. Before I jump in, anything from staff? All right, introducing Mr. Mike Snyder, our new finance director. Mike's first day was yesterday. Just like I did 2 months ago, he's kind of drinking from the fire hose right now. I will say that the two top priorities that I conveyed to him are monthly financial reports for the city council. We haven't had those. And then digitization of documents and records, getting as much as we can electronic rather than holding onto paper. Beyond that, he is going to be busy building the finance department. We've done a little rearranging so that Vanessa, Mary, and Sherry are all now part of the finance department and report directly to him. And they're super excited. We're super excited. So welcome.
I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to getting to work.
Mike, you came from where?
South Carolina.
South Carolina, and you're currently moving to?
Are actually in right now Apalachicola.
Apalachicola. Wife, kids?
wife and a daughter and a 11-year-old Shih Tzu.
Yeah. Good deal, good deal. Well,
And the drive back and forth is absolutely beautiful. Better than the skyscrapers of the city. So
welcome aboard. All right, that is it. We get a adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.